This program is provided by Universal Genesis.
When we think about philosophy, we usually picture quiet, academic debates, right? But what if a philosopher's words could actually start a war? Or what if their ideas were used to design an entire government from the ground up? Well, today, we're diving into this absolutely unique moment in history when two philosophical ideas went to battle, and the winner literally got to build a nation.
Okay, so picture this. It's October 13th, 1806. Napoleon's army is marching into the German city of Jena. The philosopher Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel looks out his window, and he doesn't just see a foreign conqueror. No, he sees, get this, the world spirit on horseback. So what on earth did he mean by that? And how could another brilliant philosopher, Johann Gottlieb Fichte, be watching the exact same invasion and see something completely different? Not progress, but a total national catastrophe. This is the story of how their two opposing ideas would go to war and, in the end, forge a nation.
All right, so to really get their reactions, we have to go back to 1806. See, Napoleon's victory wasn't just another battle. It absolutely shattered the old world. Prussia, which was a major German power, was just crushed. And the Holy Roman Empire, an institution that had been around for 1,000 years, it just collapsed. The entire German-speaking world was thrown into this state of profound shock.
And this wasn't just about military defeat. It was this deep, crushing cultural humiliation. For over a century, the German elite had basically considered French culture to be the absolute peak of civilization. I mean, they spoke French in their courts, they read French books. So Napoleon's arrival wasn't the start of this feeling of being second best. It was the brutal, undeniable confirmation of it. And right into this crisis stepped two of Germany's greatest thinkers. On one side, you've got Johann Gottlieb Fichte, this fiery, passionate nationalist. And on the other, you've got Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, the calm, detached historian of the big picture. They saw the exact same event, but their takeaways, they couldn't have been more different.
For Fichte, this was an absolute emergency. And not just for the state, but for the very soul of the German people. He saw the defeat as the ultimate consequence of a nation that had just lost its spiritual independence, that it had forgotten who it was. It was a moment of complete and utter humiliation that demanded an answer.
So in the dead of winter in 1807, right in the heart of French-occupied Berlin, Fichte starts giving these public lectures called Addresses to the German Nation. And let me tell you, this wasn't some quiet academic talk. This was a rallying cry. He argued that, the nation's body might be in chains, but its spirit was still free. The only path to getting back political freedom was through a total spiritual and educational rebirth. But Hegel, he's looking at the exact same scene and seeing something totally different. For him, Napoleon wasn't just a French general. He was an instrument of the world spirit, or you could say history with a capital H. He was this force of nature sweeping away all the old, outdated structures to make way for a more modern, rational world. So for Hegel, this wasn't an invasion. It was the abstract idea of progress made real on a horse. And this is where you can really see the heart of their disagreement laid bare. Fichte is totally focused on the immediate, the personal, the specific suffering of his people, the German nation. Hegel, on the other hand, is looking at the big picture, the grand, universal arc of history. One saw a national crisis, the other saw historical progress. Okay, and this is where things get really wild. This is where philosophy literally jumps off the page and onto the battlefield. Fichte's fiery, passionate call for a national awakening didn't just stay in the lecture hall. Oh no, it lit a fuse among students and intellectuals all across the German lands. And by 1813, those words, they'd caught fire. The War of Liberation began, and it was a whole new kind of conflict. This wasn't just a war between kings and their professional armies anymore. It was fueled by this popular, nationalist energy, with volunteer armies of students and regular citizens rising up, inspired directly by Fichte's call to awaken the national spirit. And get this, here is a perfect example of how these huge ideas can have very real and sometimes totally unexpected consequences. The most famous of these volunteer units, the Lützow Free Corps. They had a problem. Zero budget for uniforms. So their solution was just brilliantly practical. They took all their mismatched everyday clothes and dyed them all black. Then they added some red trim and polished their brass buttons till they shone like gold. Black, red, gold, a symbol of German unity, not born from some royal decree, but literally stitched together out of necessity by a student army. Incredible. So, Napoleon's finally defeated. You'd think these passionate young volunteers would be celebrated as heroes, right? Well, not exactly. The established powers, the kings and the princes, they suddenly had a brand new problem. The very same nationalist passion that had helped kick out the French was now demanding things like rights, constitutions, and a unified nation. It was revolutionary, and the old order was terrified.
The state's reaction was, let's just say, swift and brutal. In 1819, the Carlsbad Decrees came down hard, targeting the very source of this patriotic uprising. The student fraternities that had formed the volunteer armies? Banned. Professors were put under surveillance, the press was censored, you name it. The state was absolutely determined to put this dangerous genie of popular passion, of Fichte's philosophy, back in the bottle.
But here's the thing. The state realized you can't just stomp this kind of energy out. It had to be channeled. It needed its own philosophy, not one of passion and revolution, but one of reason, order, and stability. And they had just the guy in mind to provide it.
So who do you call when you need to cool things down with some high-minded reason? Well, who better than the man who saw rational order in Napoleon's invasion? In 1818, the Prussian state offered the most prestigious philosophy job in all of Germany, at the University of Berlin, to none other than George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Basically, his job was to provide an intellectual foundation for the powers that be.
And this, right here, is the ultimate contrast. Fichte's philosophy was all about awakening the people, using passion and spirit to achieve liberation. Hegel's philosophy was brought in to justify the state, using reason and order to create stability. Fichte's was a call to arms, Hegel's was a call to order. It's like one man lit the fire, and the other was hired to come in and control the flames.
And boy, did Hegel's philosophy become the blueprint for the next 100 years. The German state was basically built on his ideas of a rational, ordered, bureaucratic system. From the Prussian Constitution all the way to the founding of the German Empire in 1871, Hegel's vision of the state as the ultimate expression of reason and history totally dominated. It was a structure that would last right up until its collapse in 1918.
So what we've just walked through is, well, it's pretty incredible when you think about it. This was arguably the last time in Western history that philosophy wasn't just a critic or a commentator on the sidelines, but was actively called upon to be the chief architect of the state itself. After this era, philosophy's role would shift dramatically, from building states to, well, often trying to tear them down.
And that, of course, leaves us with a huge question for our own time, doesn't it? If philosophy isn't designing our states anymore, what is it? Is it economics? Is it technology? Social media algorithms? Who or what are the world spirits on horseback that are shaping our reality today? Something to think about.
This program is provided by Universal Genesis.